Well, hey, good afternoon, Lions fans. We are back at it on day 2. And Brad Holmes has waited till this afternoon, about 2 o'clock. According to Tom Pelissero, let's bring it in and show you who the Lions just picked up. Active again in the backfield, which we're not surprised. We got big holes. All right. So according to Tom Pelissero, the Lions are signing cornerback Amik Robertson. Said again, Amik Robertson to a 2-year, $9.25 million deal that's worth up to $10.75 million with incentives. Robertson appeared in 52 games, 21 starts with the Raiders, and can play the slot. So, as they said, another significant DB addition after the Carlton Davis trade. Haven't heard much else outside of this at this point right now. And this pick, actually, I like a little bit better than the Carlton Davis one. So Amik is to your point, A-Coop, a dog. And I do love this guy's tenacity. So up in the slot, he's not afraid to jam. I have watched him, over the years, but he has a much better grade, a little bit better stats than Davis. And I did do a follow-up video to Carlton Davis, just so everybody knows. It'll be popping about 3 o'clock today. And there's an insider that had some very interesting things to say about Carlton Davis from Tampa Bay. So I wanted to make sure that I let you know that it's coming out. But let me pull some grades up here. Let's take a look at Amik Robertson. All right, so make this a little bit bigger for y'all. Yeah, he's definitely a little short. He's like 5'8". Up in the slot, I mean, sometimes it's not that big of a deal, but the other guy that I was interested in was Darius Williams, right? Darius Williams is also like 5'8", 5'9", but he plays bigger than that. So, the biggest knock on short guys is when you don't know what they're going to be prior to coming to the NFL. When you are a little bit undersized and you're already playing in the NFL and you're playing at a pretty good clip, well, then, it's not that big of a deal. I apologize for the background noise. We got a vehicle getting towed. That's what we get today. We get dead vehicle today. So anyway, he plays bigger. Exactly, Chris. He plays bigger than what he is. But let's take a look at some of his profiles here. We'll go through some of his stats. So 42 solo tackles, 2 interceptions, 64 targets, and 40 receptions allowed in 2023. And do the quick math on him. He's allowing 62% catch rate. Overall, though, 63.4. So he's almost to the green. Coverage 65.8. So, my expectation here is he's going to be taking the smaller wide receivers. Potentially could be lining up with some tight ends. I hope not, because tight ends are kind of big, for a guy that's 5'8". But once we dive into his tape and take a look at him a little bit deeper, well, we'll get a good idea this summer during training camp just how good he's going to be if he's matched up against Sam Laporta at all. So hopefully he gets some reps against Sam. I think that would be a great opportunity to watch, an old dog and a new dog kind of going at it. But pass rush, 74.7. So what I like about this is, when the Lions are in the pass rush, sending blitzes, whatever, he's able to cover more one-on-one, but also utilizing him as a cornerback blitz off the edge. 85.7 passer rating allowed, so much better than what we've seen across the board so far that the Lions either have on their team, B just added to their team with Davis. His passer rating allowed is much better. Forced to fumble this last season, 17 stops, so not afraid to come up in the box and make it happen. Also got 1 sack, so just like I said a minute ago, coming off the edge as a DB blitzer. That sounds like it's going to be, or at least looks like it's going to be an opportunity. Only 7 missed tackles on the season. So it's not terrible. It's not great either, but we'd have to look deeper at his his overall scores and how many opportunities he had. All right, let me flip over to individual game reports. What are you guys thinking so far on Amik? Do I consider him an upgrade? Tracy, so, after what we had last season, I mean, who's he upgrading? Chase Lucas? Absolutely. Khalil Dorsey? Absolutely. Who else would have played in the slot for us last season? Mine is running blank right now. So do I consider him upgrade? I do. I absolutely do. Is he the all-star shining, signing that you want to see? No. We'd love to see somebody, bigger, better. But this is a depth signing. This is exactly what this is. I'm still expecting Brad to be able to draft one, if not two corners this season or this draft and round out the cornerback room for once and all and just be done with it, and then maybe next year you have to add one more, top tier guy if Davis doesn't work out. Definitely a depth signing. Hey, what's happening, El Torre? So overall, you guys look like you're liking it. No Snead yet. Who knows? If he goes out and decides to grab somebody like Snead or Kendall Fuller, I don't know if Kendall Fuller, I've kind of missed the morning, so I don't know if Kendall Fuller's been taken yet. I didn't hear or see anything. So there's still options. There's still an opportunity. But anyway, let's get to some overall game numbers here. Had a great game here in week 9 against the Giants. I guess I'm not surprised, but his overall defense was a 91. Coverage was a 91.8. Now, his coverage grades kind of concern me. He has a lot in the red and the orange. So it's kind of odd that he got a different coverage grade. I mean, it was a much better coverage grade than what we're seeing here. This 91.8 really overshadows everything else, and it probably brought those numbers way up. So that's going to be a little concerning. Do I still think he's an upgrade on paper? Maybe. Watching him play, yes. So nothing super exciting here stat-wise. But Louisiana Tech Bulldog, that's where he went to college, comes in at 5'8", 183 by way of the Las Vegas Raiders. He was a round 4 pick. And we now have Amik Robertson headed to Detroit and Carlton Davis. So 3 p.m. we'll be having a video pop out here on Carlton Davis. I definitely like this signing for depth. I mean, we need good players. Could we have gotten through this season with some of the guys on this roster? Probably. I just don't see where it's beneficial to go through another season like we just did, though. And that's why, a lot of us have been high on this was going to be a cornerback free agency. But especially myself, I saw Brad going out and finding, some second tier guys, on the market, as well as cornerbacks that he could really fill the room up with. And that's what we're seeing. So far we've got some spot on predictions. Maybe not so happy about the guys that we're taking. You guys heard me yesterday. I had a bad day with it because, man, we really expected something different. Again, being that close and you're only a player or two away from really making a big difference. But if we look at what Brad Holmes does and in what he's been doing, I think that's what threw me off yesterday. One, Carlton Davis and I even forget the other guy's name right now. The defensive end that we brought in, they were not Brad Holmes pre-combine or pre-draft visits with the Rams. Those are the first 2 free agents that I've seen that were not a pre-draft visit for Brad Holmes and in his scouting crew, whether it was in St. Louis or LA. And I think that speaks volumes. So we're seeing a little bit of a trend of change here with Brad Holmes this season. And then what does he always preach? He preaches that he's always going to build through the draft. And then he trades away that 3rd round pick. And I'm like, oh no, like that was our bread and butter right there. So look, I've got faith in the dude. I'm expecting now that he's going to do something unique in this draft, whether he's going to trade down and add some picks and maybe get that 3rd round pick right back, or he'll trade up and maybe move back up into the middle of the 2nd round. I think that either one of those options is fine. I mean, I think it'd be great. I think that there's a lot of opportunity right there in the middle of that 2nd round for some solid pieces to add to this team that can be a foundational and core piece moving forward. And I think that they could have instant help on this team here in 2024. So let me go to the chat and see what everyone's saying here. Tara Lockwood says, I see Brad trading back in the draft to where you say the bulk of good players are with these signings. All right. Appreciate that. Tracy says, Raiders fans are bummed because he's leaving to come here. I'm sure they are. I see us getting Bosa or Mac, which will make all these pickups better. Have faith. All right, wingman. I'm going to hold you to that. The thing about Bosa is I think he's way too expensive. Like if you're going to pay Bosa money, you might as well just get Danielle Hunter. And as far as Mac goes, I'm on board with Mac as long as it's not a trade and it's a cut deal. And I think that's what we're running up against right now is the teams that are going to be cutting players before the deadline on the 13th for the new league year to start, because that's when they have to be under the cap. And that's when those contracts for the next year are permanent. So nothing's ever permanent, but you know what I mean? They lock in, and whatever roster bonuses are due to these players start to kick in. So I think we're up against it right now. I want to say that, does it start at 4 p.m. tomorrow? So we're roughly 26 hours away before teams are going to have to make some cuts. And who's to say that right now Brad Holmes isn't on the phone trying to work something out with some players that are most likely going to be cut. And instead of making a trade, he's probably going to let it go to the last minute, and that player is going to be cut, and Brad's going to swoop in and make a deal. We'll hold out hope, but we know that Brad's not a big splash guy. But if he believes in this team and he believes that what we just did was just a little bit short and we needed a couple of guys, he may change his mind. Who knows? We'll see. But like you said, we got to have some faith. Mick Sibbs says, I think there's a flow chart. They're in on DJ Reader. If they get Reader, they're going to trade up for a defensive end. If they don't, they'll probably be trading down. So Mick Sibbs, where are you getting the DJ Reader info from? That would be my only question. I haven't seen a whole lot flying around or heard really much on Reader and the Lions. It was speculated probably 2 or 3 days ago that Reader would have been a good fit for the Lions, but it's the injury concerns that worry me, and I'm wondering if Reader would be an option because maybe his cap hit would be a little bit lighter based on his season-ending injury last year, and that would follow the Brad Holmes MO with signing injured players or previously injured players and trying to reap that high reward but big risk. And maybe he's just a gambler, let's see. What did I just miss? Hold on here. Who reworked the contract here? So Tracy says no news on Reader on NFL.com. So the commish is taking a 2.1 salary cut. Who's the commish? You talking about Kaminsky? Not real sure who you're talking about. El Torre says, Will, that's probably what Brad is doing. I would assume that's what he's doing anyway. It's just like any sales negotiation. Once you get up to a deadline, that's when things are usually worked out because it's, someone's going to fail. It's either the buyer or the seller's going to fail, and nobody likes to fail. George Vanderveen says, I kind of think that Brad Holmes has set the foundation the last 3 years, and he's kind of changed his draft MO. He's going to kind of change his draft MO. We'll see. Blue Yeti feels better about our cornerbacks at the moment. And Kyle Lalone says Lions going to pay Goff and lose talent around him. Watch what happens then. So, Kyle, just a little forewarning: if they pay Goff a max deal, $50 million a year, they'll still be able to sign everybody around him without a doubt. The cap is going to go up 25, 30 million every year. Based on the percentage, what did it go up this year? Went up about 8% or something like that. 36 million, whatever it was. So it's going to go up, at least 25 million ish a year. And in this year, they added 30 plus million to the cap. Well, you add that 30 million to what Goff was already paying, and you've already got the money to cover Goff's contract. And it's not that simple, but it's a percentage-based formula on the cap itself. So with the cap right now, let's see what it is real quick. Let me do a quick salary here. Salary cap is $255.4 million. If you were to pay Goff $47.5 million per season, he would account for 18.6% of the cap. 18.6. And that's if he got all 47.5 in this season, which wouldn't happen. So 18.6% would be about 5 or 6% more than what he was making this past season. I guarantee you, if they do a deal, his cap value would still be right around 30 million this year. And next year it might be 40, but the cap goes up another 20, 25. So the percentage kind of comes back down. If you're following what I'm saying, we did the whole roster breakdown on this channel a couple of weeks ago, and we re-signed everybody. Penei Sewell, Amon Ra. We even brought in a couple of high profile players, and we still had the same amount of cap money, because the way that these contracts work with the void years, you can really kick the can just a little bit and bring that big burden of that heavy cap hit down. And that's what you're seeing. I mean, look at what some of these teams are paying. Burns just got a $150 million contract, 30 million a year. So if they can afford to pay, those types of players, Kirk Cousins, 45 million a year, and they're still bringing in other talent around him, it can be done. I wouldn't worry about that. The biggest thing to worry about for me is paying the big money to St. Brown, because of just when you look at all the other teams, and the fact that they're winning with less. I don't want to win without St. Brown. It's just, man, that is a big nut to carry for one wide receiver that's not 6'3", 220 pounds. And the thing is, though, he gets the job done. But if, you look at what's going on in the NFC North right now, the NFC North is getting really good, like really good, really fast. So we're going to be up against it. You got Xavier McKinney we have to go up against now, twice a season. And that's a guy that I would have loved to have seen in the backfield for us. Let's see here. Yeah, big nut to carry. You like that? Ken Button says, yeah, I think he will package up picks and move up on a pick or two. Otherwise, the Lions will end up having to cut the players they draft. We can only use another 3, maybe 4 players, honestly. It's a good point. It's a great point. Good point by J. Mommy says it'll be restructured in a way to keep and re-sign current players. Not only that, but you brought up a good point, J. Mommy. So what ends up happening with a lot of these deals, usually by year 3, is a complete restructure. They will restructure the deal. And they can always add an extension if they needed to. That doesn't mean that they can't trade the player or, get out of the contract, because they will. They'll have it in place to where it'll be beneficial to the team and the player. But usually you see a lot of those big, contracts get restructured year 2 or year 3. I mean, right away. And they're already trying to make more room to bring more players in. And a player like Goff, I don't think that we're going to have to worry. I think that he is so committed to this team that he would love to bring in the players that they need to succeed. And he'll do what he needs to do to make it happen. That's my thought. I don't know that for sure. King Caddy says, do you think the rest of the league will copy the way the Lions unpredictably drafted players last year? I think to a point, the Lions have developed some sort of a blueprint, right? But it's a blueprint that only they know. The guys that have worked with Brad Holmes, in the past, I'm sure they know a little bit. But you also have to remember that a lot of the method to the madness or the genius, it resides in one guy's head, and that's Brad Holmes. So I don't think that he's really divulging all of his tactics or information to everybody. I would bet that he keeps a lot of stuff private. So if you look from the outside in, you might be able to deduce a little bit of what you think that the Lions are doing or going to do. But they've been unpredictable, completely unpredictable. And it seems like the teams that are predictable usually have picks in the top 5 of the draft because we know where those 5 players are generally going to land. We haven't had to worry about that. Brad is moving back 2 seasons in a row, and we'll see if anyone's going to allow him to move this draft. At some point, I think that teams kind of look at this and say, wait a second, dude, you're going to move up and take our pick, or you're going to move back and take our pick. Why? What's up your sleeve? Should I let you do this? I don't know. I don't know if those conversations happen, but at some point, people are going to start to question why he wants their pick, why he wants to move up or move back, and what's in it for them better be good enough so that you don't have a situation like last season where we totally came up and stole Brian Branch. I couldn't believe when that deal happened, I about fell out of my chair. I couldn't believe the Packers let Brian Branch go. They needed a safety so bad. And I had Brian Branch pegged to the Lions as the number 1 safety in the draft. Not to say I wouldn't have loved to have Battle later on, but Brian Branch was the guy. And for the Packers to allow that to happen, I doubt that the Packers will ever want to deal with Brad again because of that. He went up and sniped him. None your business says word is that the Lions are now one of 3 teams on the running for Hunter. San Fran is offering guaranteed. Lions offering 3 years with more guaranteed. Can you tell me where your source is from? I would love to know your source. Because I'm going to tell you right now, ain't nobody know how many years or guaranteed years are being offered. Nobody knows that, but what's going on in the phone call. I would love to say I knew that information, but I know for a fact nobody knows that information. And if they did, it would be printed by all of the insider writers. They would love to have that information. And they would be the first ones with that information. J-Rod says, you heard that San Fran is now out on another podcast. San Fran signed Mateos. They don't need Hunter. Craig Haas says, I believe the Lions will sign Hunter if the deal is friendly on both sides. Holmes will not bet the entire future on him. I do think that there you go, Trace. Way to put the source in there. NFL.com said that yesterday that San Fran is out. Yeah, that figures. None of your business. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Yeah, that's all you get is a bunch of mumbo jumbo from over there. It's all it is. It's a bunch of crap. It's clicks. It's called clickbait, or it's to get clicks. That's about it. Yeah, you just gotta pay attention to the people that make all of these wild accusations. And I don't I'm not trying to create drama or anything, but the people that make all these wild accusations or speculations, trade rumors, breaking news, and nothing ever comes of it 40 some odd times in a row. At some point, you got to start questioning why. Like, why even put it out there if it's truly not true? I am very critical of sharing source information. Like, if I can't back it up, I probably won't share it, because more than likely what we say will happen. Now, my opinions on things are different. Like, my opinions, that's opinions. That's just us having conversations. But if I say I've heard this, like the Tuesday before the first playoff game, I got information. I said Sam Laporta was definitely going to play, and that we would find out on Wednesday that he is going to play, or the Thursday. I think it was a Thursday, actually. And that information was true. It happened. Sam Laporta played. The information came out on Thursday that he was going to suit up. And so that's the kind of information that when you put it out there, you better be right. And otherwise, you kind of diminish your credibility a lot over time. And I don't want to do that. I'm not in the business of that. So that's a good point, Bucky McBadbat. I'll leave it at that. So Ken Button says Kingsley Suamatu isn't getting out of the first round. That's interesting. Niners are still over on their salary cap, Dale. That they've got to get down at some point. So got to get down by tomorrow. And that's what we're going to be watching for. So, hey, that's going to wrap up this segment talking about the new corner for the Detroit Lions. Amik Robertson, 5'8", 183, slot corner. Obviously, he's going to be filling in for Khalil Dorsey, Chase Lucas, the guys that are most likely not going to be added back to the team. We should have some news yet today and tomorrow on some of the Lions signings, to bring some of these players back. I put out a list the other day on Twitter, and we'll be excited to see some of these guys come back. It all depends on what happens in free agency. So if they are able to find better deals, better players, some of those players may not make it back. But the Lions only have, I think the list now is down to like three or four more of their guys from last season that they're looking to re-sign. What the interesting thing is here is CJ Gardner-Johnson. Haven't heard any news yet on CJ. No teams really hunting them down. And what's going on with the Lions? Are they going to bring him back? I was told that they weren't. So we'll see what happens. Ken, yes. Yes, that is very true. So yeah, all creators make money when they do these types of videos. There's some of us like this one shouldn't be making any sort of money or anything. And I do that now with my lives. Like, if you guys jump in live, I don't want any ads playing. I'll pay all the ad fees. I don't want you guys to have to worry about it. After it ends, then we'll monetize the video. But that's not what this is all about for Rock On Detroit Lions. This is about community. It's about the fans. It's about growing a network and building the trustworthy and transparency back into media. That's what we're trying to do. Media is under attack right now. It has been for a long time, and I'm passionate about it. So we're going to try to rebuild it and hopefully join some forces with other people that want to do the same. So Amik Robertson, I'm excited to see what he's all about. I'm glad we got a good slot corner. That's a big position of need. We lost a lot of big passes over the middle last season, and a lot of that was because of what was going on inside the box. And I hope that gets fixed with Amik Robertson, who right now is a depth signing, that we can speculate will be a depth signing, and we'll see where it goes from here. So we'll be back when we get more breaking news. It is Tuesday night, so we will do Tuesday night off the cuff, and it'll probably be about an hour segment about 8 o'clock tonight. So we'll talk to you guys soon, if not later.
Jameson makes the catch. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, number 9.